Live everywhere.
Daily Co's Radio on netrootsradio.com presents
David Walton. Kagro in the Morning Show. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Thursday, July 28th, 2016, starting just about a minute and a half late today. Second to last day of camp. So I think last day tomorrow of these late or nearly late starts. I don't think we've made it on time yet in the last 2 to 3 weeks at this point. But, bear with us. It happens, and, what's the difference, really? Honestly, we're not running any commercials. It makes no difference to me. It ought not to make a difference to you, but I know you're ready and waiting to discuss last night's convention happenings. I guess it only really matters this week. Maybe a little bit last week. You couldn't wait to get the show together and get it started and talk about Donald Trump. Won't be mostly about Donald Trump today, of course, this being middle of the Democratic convention. But hey, how about that Donald Trump? He grabbed the news and the headlines yesterday anyway, and he's got to force his way in. He can't stand to be left out of the headlines, so I guess he upped the ante. I say this morning, I'm surmised last night, he must be getting ready at this point to grab the headlines away from the lineup from last night. He's got to be threatening to blow up the moon by this point, which he might do. It's entirely possible. It's not outside of the realm of possibility. Let's see what else is going on. We can monitor Twitter for morning breaking news. I'll have to monitor on the laptop. The desktop has insisted to me once again. This is it. Last chance to update to Windows 10. You got to do it right now during your show. It would have let me do it later, but I would have forgotten by that point. So, of course, remember, this thing has been telling me for now 2 weeks or more. Update. You got to update. Here's your chance to update. So I finally give in and say, all right, I think I can do without the desktop open, and we'll just update it and get this thing out of the way. So, it's got the countdown clock. Click here to update. Okay, so fine. Good. I'll do it during the show. Who cares? Click update. And the Windows Updater opens up, and the bar is filling up, not because it's downloading the thing. It's checking for updates. You're checking for updates? You've been counting down to me the last second. I don't know. There might not be any updates. I'll have to check and see. And it's been doing this for 2 minutes already. I don't know. There might not be any updates. We'll have to check this. All right. You got me. We'll see. Windows. It's the worst. Anyway, I'm assured that Windows 10 is not nearly as horrible as Windows 8 was. And what choice do I really have anyway? Eventually, they'll just make whatever I'm operating on obsolete, and if I want to be able to use anything, as though we're allowing me to use it at any time in the past, this time we're going to have it on Windows 10. Okay, well, that's where we are with the computers, in case you were wondering. Wow, let's see. Okay, so might as well get right to it, and I guess we'll ask again about Armando's availability. Yesterday, I don't know whether he was driving around or whatever, but just a few comments from him in the background. But if you're interested in coming on and sharing impressions, you certainly can. Certainly if you are interested in sharing impressions via Twitter or any other methodology that you can use to reach me during the show, please feel free. And as always, feel free to pick up the smartphone and record your thoughts, and record all your thoughts and send them to WikiLeaks, and then we'll put them on the internet. Be sure to tell everybody what your phone number is. The second round of WikiLeaks DNC leaks broke yesterday. And as far as I have been able to tell, no one has been able to figure out why they did that, other than, I guess, to prove that they could. The first round of WikiLeaks leaks, thanks for using the word right in your name, so now I have to repeat myself. This is your fault, really. Their first round of leaks from the DNC were, of course, the emails, some of which actually showed something and some of which really did not. I think when you get to the point that you're tying yourself in knots about Donna Brazile saying, I'd better not comment on this. As DNC vice chair, I really better not go on television and comment on the attacks from the Bernie Sanders campaign against the DNC, because I might be less than charitable to them, because I don't see the accusations in the same light that they do. So it's best if I just pass. What conspiracy? You're totally against us. What bias? I mean, there is bias, but it's the bias of, hey, I know and trust and have worked with these people for decades, and I don't know you. And I'm looking at the clock, and I think before it strikes a certain hour, you're not going to be a Democrat anymore. And I don't know. We'll wait and see. And I won't go on television and cuss you out. Why? I demand that you go on television and cuss me out, just to be honest and true to yourself. You know I'm all about principle. I don't know. I don't really know what the anger was there. The better of the 2 or 3 stories that I saw come out of it, of course. The better in terms of it being a more solid story was the complaints about the actual dynamics of the fundraising, specifically the Hillary Victory Fund, and how much of it was getting kicked down to the states. We discussed that a little bit yesterday, and I provided you with a link, or I provided Scott with a link, and Scott provided you with the link, and I watched him provide it to you so that you could read the Politico story, which was one of the longer looks at the specifics of really how crappy it turns out the Hillary Victory Fund was for state parties, at least to this point. That may change in the future. Lots of things probably go into the dynamics of that. I guess I could spend just a few minutes, you're right, talking about that, just because there were a couple other points that probably I felt might be of interest to that. Did I get rid of that article? I probably still have it around. And maybe we can, I may have archived that. We'll have to check that out. I guess it's probably less than compelling in terms of a way to start the show. If you're starting the show the morning after Joe Biden spoke, Tim Kaine spoke, President Obama spoke, some other people spoke that I missed, and some other video presentations that made everybody tear up and everything. I didn't catch everything, as usual. You know, there's a lot of activity going on in mine and most other houses at that hour. That's prime time sucks. I don't really know what's so prime about it. I guess that's when you're going to hit the most targets. But, for 2 parties usually, and this time only 1 party, that are usually at least trying to pretend that they are targeting middle-class parents just trying to do the best they can to raise their kids in a country, whatever it is they're trying to do. They make it next to impossible to actually watch these things. But it's usually digested for you on the news, or failing that, on YouTube. Great speech from President Obama. I thought it was hard to, imagine that wasn't going to go well. That's what he does. I did see a lot of comparison to Bill Clinton's speech, and people saying this is much better than Bill Clinton's speech, and it was, but I think Bill Clinton was limited in a certain sense to what. Remember, he's there in the role as political spouse, and it is not a good idea to either do a better job than or upstage Hillary, and there's enough time between the two of them speaking that it's doable. You can make a great speech, and he did it. He told a good story, and kept people interested and captivated, and told the life story of Hillary in a way that hadn't been told to date and really needed to be. But to compare that to, hey, haven't we had a great 8 years with me as president, and wouldn't you like some more of that? And I'm the president right now. He's never really going to be able to do that, and it's not his job to do that, and you want the speeches to kind of crescendo. Already, of course, there are hand-wringers and the professional punditry, of course, who now say, well, there's no way Hillary can do as good a job as they did, and it's going to be on the speechwriters to see what they can pull together. And that's not her forte. And there's some possibility of anticlimactic moment there. But, we got some good stagecraft people behind this. I think they'll be able to pull something together. And hey, we'll all probably be reminded of the historical nature of this whole thing as well. And then they'll put together, between that and video and a couple of lines, they'll be aiming to get your tear ducts flowing, and then you'll feel like it was a great speech. I'm pretty sure they're going to do okay with that. P.S. It would be a lot better, even if it wasn't such a good speech, to elect a sane person president of the United States. And, I think a lot of people probably agree with that. A very big night in terms of contrasts between the parties in general and the candidates in particular. And the punditry found it very easy to fall into the narrative that they should be following. I mean, you can hardly miss with this narrative. The Republican convention was about doom and gloom and what a hellhole America is. I did see somebody put it very succinctly, and I think it might have been Oliver Willis, and retweeted him with it yesterday. I don't know if I can scan back and find the damn thing. But basically, recounting how Reagan did the Morning in America thing, and Obama doing the Yes We Can thing, and Trump's lines essentially is, take a look around at this S-hole we live in, and it's going down the tubes. But I've said for years now that this is where you can't separate Republicans from Donald Trump. It's not a new phenomenon. They've been campaigning on the idea, the premise that America is a hellhole since forever. They love to wave the flag and say America is the greatest country on earth, but then the rest of it is, it's inconsistent, obviously, and I guess gimmitarian in nature, right? Right now, I have to hit these notes. No one will vote for me unless I say America is the greatest country in the world and wave the flag, so I'll do it. And then I'll get more people to vote for me by saying, and you're all going to be killed by black people in vicious ISIS-sponsored street crime that might have nothing to do with anything. And therefore, invest your hope in me, if you have any left. Anyway, geez, it was a nice night, despite all that. And the president did a great job, I think, not only in just delivering a fun speech, and we were noting as we were watching here at home, his particular abilities, as great speech makers are able to do, to measure audience response, to know your lines and know what's coming next, not so that you can recite them per se, but so that you can get a sense for what to do with applause lines, right? If you're a good speech maker, you know the difference between applause lines above which you should build toward a crescendo when you continue over the applause, right? And try to build it, or when you're making a rhetorical pivot and you know that's what's coming next. You let the applause die down and then do that pivot. Yes, but I say then, now let me tell you more about. Right. So he's masterful with that and did it very well. Joe Biden, good. It was a very good Joe Biden speech, definitely. And Tim Kaine, I'm really sorry I missed Saturday's rollout speech because by most accounts that was better. There would be a tall order. Tim Kaine, he's got a reputation for being a boring guy, and he did a great job dispelling a lot of that myth on Saturday. And then I think yesterday we kind of realized, okay, well, there's a kernel of truth to that. It was good, and a lot of dispute about whether or not it was a good idea, I guess, to mixed feelings about whether it was a good idea for him to do a Trump impression on the Believe Me thing during his speech. I liked it a lot, although I did laugh. I did see somebody tweet out, which I thought was pretty funny, saying, hey guys, should I do the Trump impression in my speech? And having, Hillary say no, and having Obama say no, and Bill Clinton say no. And what about you, Joe? Yeah, that's great stuff. Do it. Yeah, I guess that would appeal to the Biden in all of us. Anyway, I thought it was pretty good and pretty effective and probably annoyed Trump a little bit. Although, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't paying attention. He certainly wasn't paying attention to who Tim Kaine was yesterday. That made the early headlines. Just before Trump asked Russia to conduct more cyber war against the United States, please, and he would see to it that they were financially rewarded. Punch him in the face. I'll cover your legal bills. Hack the Democratic Party. You'll be rewarded. Although he was saying he thought the media would pay for it. And for all I know, they very well might. Anyway, but before he got to that yesterday, he was asked about the other events of the day and what do you think about Tim Kaine? I don't know how they put the question to him. And he began launching into his attack on Tim Kaine by saying he did a terrible job with New Jersey and it was a hellhole as everything is, and I don't know, lost jobs and the economy sucked and blah, blah, blah. And nobody, I don't think anybody said anything at first. Somebody must have whispered in his ear at some point and said, "You're thinking of Tom Kaine, Kean, former New Jersey governor, Republican, by the way, but decades ago. Whereas this man here that we're talking about now is Tim Kaine, Kaine, and he's from Virginia." Oh, yeah, well, blah, 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 blah. You know, the sharpest mind. He's so smart. He went to Wharton. I've got one of the greatest memories on earth, I think he said at one point. Can't keep Tom Kaine and Tim Kaine straight. And I don't think it was even the only such mistake at that quote-unquote press conference, which was really looked a little bit more like a Charles Manson parole hearing than anything else. But he got away with it on that one. Though later, speaking of Charles Manson and parole hearings, he was also asked about the decision, which I have questions about, to release John Hinckley Jr., who shot Reagan. What a message. I'm surprised that we haven't been attacked with that one. Can you believe that right during the Democratic convention, Obama's releasing Reagan's would-be assassin? I can't believe they didn't even get around to that. But I guess they're so dumbfounded by their own orange-faced idiot that they forgot about that. But then he launched into something there, too. And he said I don't think he should be released, which isn't a ridiculous position to take. But the ridiculous part was that I don't think David Hinckley should have been released. You're thinking of David Brinkley, respected newsman, dead also. I also don't think he should be released. But not John Hinckley, Ronald Reagan's would-be assassin. But David Brinkley was someone completely different. David, John, Hinckley, Brinkley, Kaine, Tim, Tom, whatever. One of the greatest minds of the world. He's a real genius. And I don't know. I think probably shouldn't elect him. I also spent a great deal of time thinking about how ridiculous not only he sounded, but as usual, how ridiculous he looks. And when he finally did move on to encouraging the Russians to continue hacking not only the DNC, but then of course he was saying, how did he put it? Hey, Russia, if you're listening, if you're listening, maybe you can find the missing Hillary Clinton emails, which are of course on the private server of the former Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, not the DNC's servers. But why don't I have a press conference encouraging Russia to hack? And by the way, why are we concerned? What's the big deal? Why do we need to dig out if it is 33,000 missing quote unquote emails from Hillary Clinton's server? Because we want to see if they have confidential top secret information in them. Hey, Russia, why don't you hack our top secret information? I'll pay you. What do we call that? Well, I think everybody kind of hit the nail on the head. And then we spent the rest of the day saying, well, I don't know if it's really treason per se compared to, apparently they had a giant spike in the online searches for the definition of treason. That was helpful. But, finally, I guess some people who have been holdouts in declaring Trump to be mentally unfit for office, mentally unstable, crazy, have, I guess, been put over the edge by this one. And it occurred to me as I'm tweeting around pictures of his extraordinarily orange face, one of the worst pictures I think ever taken of this guy. And I am reminded by somebody on Twitter, he looked in the mirror either before or after this, immediately before or immediately after this picture was taken, and said, nice. I want my picture. He's got his signature pout on, which, again, I am pretty sure he thinks is sultry. And so he's got that pouty face, and he's just been spray tanned. I guess that's what he thinks it is. And so his lips you don't spray, and I guess he wears eye covering for safety or whatever. So he's got he's got puffy, pale pink raccoon eyes in the middle of this orange face, and then the pinky lips there. And it looks like face paint rather than the spray tan he thought it was. And it occurs to me again, he does this to his face on purpose. He asks people to do this to his face. And when you see the picture, I know that's not necessarily what he thought it was going to look like. And I'm sure the lighting made it a lot worse than it might have been otherwise. But when it occurs to you, this guy, when he gets ready for a public appearance, literally asks somebody, hey, paint my face orange. I got to go speak to the people and look like I know what I'm talking about. You would not, speaking of Charles Manson parole hearings, if you were sitting on the parole board, you're used to weird things on the California parole board, I'm sure, and you're used to probably seeing Charles Manson every couple of years come to the table with some crazy look in his eye and maybe a swastika carved in his forehead. And you say, all right, well, you're not getting out of here. But man, Manson, you really know how to make an impression and let everybody know you're still crazy. If the next guy up at the parole board came with his face painted orange on purpose like this, you would say, oh my God, why did you even bring this guy to his hearing? I guess we got to go through the formalities, but wow, this guy's insane. He's painted his face. He's nuts. That's not a skin color. Why did you do that? You would say he was mentally if it was purple, would anybody go to the press conferences? Would anybody say, yeah, that's right, I got to cover this guy like it's serious? But it's orange, so you go. It could be an attempt at a skin tone, a tan. It isn't latex paint. It's not, but I don't know. Maybe it is. But I don't know. Nobody tells him it looks ridiculous at the minimum. But, now we're just figuring out he's crazy. He paints his face orange on purpose. His whole face, the whole thing. Yes, please apply this to me. And now, oh, gee, he might be unbalanced. Well, looking at it that way, I guess it does feel a little... On the other hand, everybody thinks that Mel Gibson's William Wallace character from Braveheart was a very serious hero and role model. Which is easy to think when you have a movie and you can do whatever you want with it. He painted his face blue, so what's the problem? Yeah, I guess you have me there. Anyway, so he grabbed an awful lot of attention, obviously, but then that made it extraordinarily easy to rub his nose in it that evening in prime time with some of the party's best speakers. So it was interesting to see the different approaches to it. I enjoyed Tim Kaine's "Believe Me" thing, and he didn't dwell on the crazy part of the whole thing, just on the braggadocio of it. Biden hit him a little bit harder. Obama took a very interesting tack, a very Obama tack, and every opportunity was there to really lay into Trump, but that's not usually what he'll do. He'll take a couple of swipes and you'll feel it, and it cuts deep, but he won't linger on it. His framing was considerably more about, they're offering a dark and weird and un-American vision over there. But he also, very Obama, lets Republicans off the hook in a way. And it's arguably not the time to do that. But, I think I've been a little clearer in saying, Trump is a symptom of republicanism and Republican gimmitarianism, to be sure, and needs to be defeated. But you should also remember that before there was Trump as leader of the party, before there was even Trump as a declared candidate, even though he's been flirting with this forever, Republicans, as a matter of policy in the Congress, where they congregated and made their policy, are in favor of constant government shutdowns. We're in favor of defaulting on the federal debt just to show you we can. And God knows what else. And Obama didn't really take the opportunity to do that, which was, like I say, it's vintage Obama. It really would have been uncomfortable, I suppose, for him to do it. And you want him to do what's most natural to him. And at the moment, concentrating on the message of electing Hillary Clinton president, that's probably the best thing to do, to say, to give Republican voters, I mean, it's not worth missing the chance just to roast a couple of the top level Republican kooks in Congress. We want to do that, but it's not worth giving up the chance to say to people who might be habitual Republican voters who are perhaps still scrambling for ways to effectively hold their noses and vote for Donald Trump, to give them the out that they were looking for. Listen, there was once a party worth respecting there. This guy is out of your orbit and out of step with all of America, and it's okay for you to say, that means me too. He's out of step with me. And if you can't vote for Hillary, stay home, I guess, would be the takeaway from that. But it was an interesting approach and probably a wise approach given the nature of the person giving the speech. There may be others today during the day who can remind you this problem goes a lot deeper than Donald Trump. But again, it's probably a wise idea to start seeding that theme. That, if you've been a lifelong Republican and you're confused by what this party is doing now and hesitant about endorsing its platform, you may be right about that. Don't do it. You needn't do it. And America won't collapse if there's not a 50-50 split. We'll do a hell of a lot better, in fact, if both at home and abroad, if we reassure ourselves and the rest of the world, there's no more than 25% of the country that thinks this is even allowable for discussion. So let them vote for it. Let's have a landslide. No one will hang that around your neck. They'll think you're a hero. Anyway, Armando is here, and I'm sure you were watching along at home. I know.
Of course. I tweeted a lot. It was. Yeah. I was listening to your comments, and I actually was taken by the last things you're saying about the approach of separating Trump from other Republicans, and what does that mean down ticket? I actually think if you look at it as a political tactic, it's very smart. It actually helps down ticket for a couple of reasons, in my view. Number one, look, the top of the ticket, there aren't as many ticket splitters. When people come out to vote, yeah, there's ticket splitters, but it's what we really need is people to come out and vote. To vote for Hillary. So, I mean, that's part of the appeal. The other thing is, in those competitive races, let's look at the Senate, for example. Take Kelly Ayotte in New Hampshire.
Uh-huh.
And Obama just said, listen, Trump's not a Republican. He's not a conservative.
Right.
He isn't like you guys. He's, he is what he is. The Michael Bloomberg questioned his sanity. And I don't know if you've talked about Bloomberg at all today.
No, I missed that entirely. And I heard it was all right.
Oh, he was fantastic. And I thought, in a way, probably after Obama, the most important speech of the night, to be honest with you. I'll explain why, but let me finish my using Kelly Ayotte as an example. So, say Obama's approach works in New Hampshire, and Republicans in New Hampshire said, That I'm a Republican. Trump's not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going for him. And they either vote for Hillary or they don't vote. It puts pressure on Kelly Ayotte to take a position on Donald Trump. I don't know if you've noticed her. She avoids talking about Trump as much as possible. She doesn't want to be for him, but she doesn't want to be against him either, right? She pretends that Donald Trump doesn't exist.
Yeah.
But the way Obama frames it, and presumably Maggie Hassan will frame it, you've got to take a position on Trump. He's not a Republican. He's destroying your party, Kelly Ayotte. You can't be quiet about it. And there will be, like in all races, there will be candidate debates, and there's going to be, you'll do the ads where you put a picture of Trump next to a picture of Kelly Ayotte, and you make her take a spot. Now, that helps you one of two ways. She's either going to have to repudiate Trump, in which case it helps you in the presidential race, or she's going to have to repudiate, or she's going to have to embrace Trump, which will help you in the Senate race.
Yeah.
So that's also at work there, I think, putting people on the spot with Trump. And I think it goes beyond candidates. And I watched a little bit of the morning shows today, and they were much harsher on Trump today than they had been. I look as sort of a bellwether. Even Mark Halpern was harsh on Trump today on this Russia thing. And to get Mark Halpern to be harsh on Trump is hard.
He loves his helicopter.
He loves him some Donald Trump.
Yeah.
And by still pretending to be up in the clouds, but it's nonsense. And he was very hard on Trump. And Scarborough killed him this morning. So what Obama did, because Obama, for the media and for much of America, certainly for us Democrats, is not just a political partisan Democratic Party figure. He's bigger than that. He's bigger than that. And he used that prestige obviously in a dignified way to truly make the choice stark. And, there was another incident last night with a reporter at a Pence rally getting basically thrown out and treated like we were in a fascist state.
Yeah, Washington Post reporter who even the private security was on alert. He's a Washington Post guy. Kick him out.
Right. Yeah, and the police went along with him.
Yeah, another one of those where he went in through the press entrance and they said, Washington Post, no, you're out of here. So he went through the general public entrance, which the Post apparently, in the write-ups I've seen, has been able to do without incident up until now. But now they're even blocking that. You can't have the Washington Post at a Pence event.
No, at a Pence event. And the other thing about it is, you're open to the public. You're open to the public. I mean, yes. I mean, as a matter of law, excuse me, as a matter of law, you have a right to refuse entry to people.
Yeah.
But my God. I mean, first of all, it's silly enough not to let the guy come in as a press member. That's just childish nonsense, and it's typical Trump.
Yeah.
It's typical Trump barring reporters. What is that? But they have taken it and accepted it and said, thank you, please, let's keep talking about Trump. And I think that part of this barring the reporter thing would have been just another Trumpian thing. But, it's all sort of rolling up. You get the Russia thing and then Obama's speech, and then that happened. And I think on some level, the media might be thinking, what are people going to think of us if Trump wins? And because they're not doing their job, let's be clear. They're being terrible. They think they're doing their job. There was a very good clip this morning that I recommend to you, David.
Yes.
With Tony Schwartz, who wrote The Art of the Deal back in the 80s.
Yeah.
He's been doing the rounds basically saying Trump's a sociopath.
And he's right.
And Chris Cuomo played let me push back on that game. And Schwartz was having none of it. And he said, look, this isn't just some disagreement on tax policy. This guy is not fit for office. And you can't keep playing this game of saying, well, no. There comes a time when you've got to say, this is insane, and can you look yourself in the face on November 8th, I think that would be the day after the election, and that guy is the president, and what did you do? What did you do in the war to stop Trump, Daddy? I enabled him? I think there's a little bit of that happens, too, and I think that Obama spoke to that, because for the media class, they love Obama. They love Biden, but they want to be like Obama. They want to be as smart and cool and deep and all those things that Obama is, because Obama is all those things. He truly is a remarkable individual. Okay, we're a partisan, David. You and I, we're Democrats. I remember watching Obama as a candidate, and I liked some of it, what he did. I could objectively recognize the political talent. But, I can certainly stand away from him and make judgments on him. Indeed, judgments on his political tactics early in his presidency.
Yes, we might as well.
But 12 years later, we have been watching one of the most remarkable individuals in our history on so many levels, on level of intelligence, character, just pushing forward the idea of trying to do good. I thought the speech last night was remarkable in that sense, in its substance of what it means to make progress and what it takes to make progress. And in that sense, I thought the discussion was both friendly and yet explanatory to the new activists that Bernie has brought into the Democratic Party, and trying to explain to them at least how he sees the process of change, the process of making progress. And it was, I thought, wonderfully thought out and delivered and explained. My understanding is John Favreau flew in from California, his favorite speechwriter from back in the his first term, who wrote all of the great speeches that we remember, the Iowa speech in 2008 after he won the caucus there, all of those things. And it truly was not just a great political speech. I thought it was a great substantive speech discussion of the process of progress. And I don't know if it resonated with those people. They're probably not there to really receive it, but he did what he could do. And I tell you, it takes a remarkable individual like him to have done that. At least that's how I see it. You may think I'm being a little too effusive, but I don't think so.
No, I thought it was all well done. It was all within the bounds of what you can get out of Obama, for sure. And it's just he's got a slightly different approach to handling some aspects of the politics than I do, but arguably, he's the president and I'm not. So he's got a pretty good understanding of what's going on. But you're right. We've certainly had our complaints over the years. How many times have we said, why doesn't he just say it instead of some in Congress? Those kind of lines. Some in Congress.
Yeah, I'm still not sure that we're wrong and he's right. I mean, but the character,
I don't think
the quality of the man is
different.
is undeniable and unique and extraordinary. And that's sort of what I'm trying to convey to you. He is, we're not going to see his like again. Mark Sumner in his write-up about it last night, and I tweeted I emailed that paragraph to him, and I'd like to read it to your audience if you want, because it captured what I thought as I was watching it. And Mark wrote, and I quote here, and President Obama, well, the introduction said it, the presidency didn't change him. It only made him more of what he was. He still has that calmness, that sense of unfathomed depth, but it's woven through now with the warmth of experience. It's strengthened by greater confidence. It's seasoned by both victory and defeat. He still has the same dreams, the same vision of the nation. If anything, that vision is clearer now. We still believe in him because it is so blindingly clear that he believes in us. And that last line, that he believes in us, I think he means the idea of us, the country, America, and why it resonated so well, why his vision of a great. And we've always had these discussions at Daily Kos, particularly about, are you an American exceptionalist? Mm-hmm. And I've always been on the American exceptionalist side. And people are going to think I'm being hokey. Oh, yeah, this is the kind of nonsense that leads to wars. But America is great. It is different than any place else. It's where people from, I guess I'm a son of immigrants, so it means a lot to me. But so is Obama in his own way. And I think that's that sense of why America is great and can be great and will be great is explained last night by Obama, and he believes in us, and he can explain it so well because it's heartfelt. He does believe America is great. I believe America is great. And when it's explained by a remarkable individual, someone who could only have risen in the United States, it makes me proud to be an American, and it makes me proud that I have supported this man as president all these years. And it's all those emotions came through to me, and I thought Mark's paragraph captured it well for me, and it made me feel good to be an American and a Democrat last night. That's the man we chose, and that's the man we produced to lead us for the last 8 years.
Well, it really was pretty amazing to see. And here's a good point. I know this isn't going to, I don't know, it depends on how you take this comment. But I think it can be taken, well, I think it's fair. Who wrote it here? It's Christina Wilkie, the Huffington Post reporter, a tweet from last night saying people crying all over the convention center as Obama wraps up, as they were. And this is a judgment call, but I see what we're talking about here. He makes the weeping, and we use the bad term people don't like here, Bernie bros, but he makes the weeping Bernie bros yesterday look so shallow. They certainly had that belief in their candidate, and the connection was deep, and they'd love for, and maybe they're sad because they get the sense that this is the exit from the possibility of his ever being president. I don't imagine he could ever run again. But, yeah, it does sort of bring to mind, like, okay, I know it was an emotional moment, but I guess putting the weeping on a par, and maybe it was never intended to be on a par, but after watching, for instance, the wrap-up video, or the introduction video, wrapping up the last 8 to 12, I guess, if you include the campaigns, or his introduction to us, 8 to 12 years, and all the things of substance that affected America and really happened on his watch and were really handled by him versus, well, I'm sad about the promise of Bernie. Okay, there's different kinds of tears, but captured in photographs and absent that context, it's like, really? You're crying about the guy who ran a pretty decent race from out of nowhere and, involved a lot of people in politics but didn't win the nomination but is going to be in the Senate tomorrow, versus we're really cutting our anchor line to this guy and taking a chance on maybe Donald Trump. Cry about that. Yes. So I don't know. I found that kind of interesting. I can't discount the emotion of Bernie supporters entirely. That's a little cold, but it's an interesting observation. But look, people were moved to tears
it
for
is
a lot of reasons.
An important observation. But I actually thought Obama explained their importance.
Yes,
very well. He really
well
turned me around. I started the night. I tweeted out some outrageously nasty things about Bernie Bros because I was so upset that they had chosen Panetta's punchline where he was going to kill Trump. It was an important political moment for that night. And that's when they're going to start chanting?
Yeah. I heard that.
But yeah. Obama, when talking about their importance, their commitment, their energy, the first step to being change and making change is caring. Mm-hmm. And he brought back to me, as someone who was very upset with him, the appreciation that they care so much, maybe in a wrong-headed way at times, but they care. Maybe in an unfair way, but they care. maybe in ways that are counterproductive, but they care. Now, he wants them to channel and understand there's more to do. You're not done. You can't be done because Bernie didn't get nominated.
Right.
That can't be it. When Bernie started his campaign, no one thought he would be nominated, not even then.
Right. So what was your plan at that point?
And what was your plan at that point? So you can't be done. And I thought that Obama, to me, made me more sympathetic to them, though I probably disagree with them on policy a lot as well. I'm closer to Obama on policy than much closer on policy, almost exactly with Obama on policy, including on TPP. So there's that. But his recognition and appreciation of their commitment, their fight, their energy, their concern for their country is important. And it made me, frankly, much more sympathetic to all of it. And that, again, when I think of me, and I like to think of myself as incredibly cynical, and don't like to, I just think I am. Wish I wasn't as cynical. And he got that out of me. It shows, to me what Obama can do, what he's been. This is, he's walking off the stage, and he won't go away. He'll still be Obama, but it's not the same. And we won't have him to lean on anymore, because we leaned on him a lot. When you stop and think about it, we leaned on him as someone to complain about. We leaned on him as someone who would make sure everything didn't fall apart. We had the confidence that things would be better because he was president. I think that's for conservatives, Reagan was probably like that. For us, Obama was like that. With Bill Clinton, we never, I liked Bill Clinton's presidency, and I thought he was very capable, and things went well. But during the period of his presidency, I was never looking at Bill and feeling, well, I'm reassured we're in good hands. Because, frankly, Bill would do things that you would fear sometimes. Yes. I mean, and in a political sense, not that he would start a war or anything like that. It would be along the lines of, is he going to blow it on this? Because there was that, but there was the calmness and steadiness and commitment that Obama brought to his presidency that made you sit back and not worry about certain things sometimes. And maybe we got complacent because of that, too. In that sense, we do have to snap out of it. Obama's not going to take care of everything for us. We have to do it ourselves a little bit more. And that's sad. I mean, he never wanted to do it himself, and he didn't in the end, of course. But you always had the sense that I sound like that poster that I used to make fun of all the time. The one was, don't worry, I got this. Remember those?
Right, yeah. Yes.
But now, in hindsight, I said, there was a little bit of me that probably lived that poster too.
And a different kind of person might take the opportunity afterwards to say, I told you so. I hate to say I told you so, but I told you so. I told you.
They could. They're right.
But instead he says, it's part of my job. Part of the job is, I do tell you so, but you say no. And I say, okay. As long as you're working. You're still working, you're still pushing, you're still doing your thing. If you're still free to do that, then I'm doing my job here. Maybe you'll come to realize it, maybe you don't. Can't change the way I do this because I know it's right. Not necessarily that every solution I propose is the correct one, but that it doesn't upset the balance wherein people who want to push back can push back, and maybe something better comes of it. And I don't get good headlines, but America goes on. That's the job.
Yep.
And he did it. So
he did. He did. We were blessed to have had Barack Obama as our president, and it would be disastrous and just tragic if we set all that aside and let Donald Trump be our president.
Yeah.
The contrast is incredible. We have a remarkable president now, and we would go to the person who, without a shadow of a doubt in my mind, would be the worst president in history by a factor of 10. He is unfit for office. This is not George Bush 41. This is not even Mitt Romney, who we disagreed with on everything and thought he had a tremendous shortcomings. But he was not what Trump is.
Yeah.
And we're going to go from one of the best to the absolute dregs, a Mussolini-like figure in the United States of America. You know, Obama said at the end, he just doesn't believe that's what America is. And I think he's right. I think we're going to win.
Well, I sure as hell hope so, because, America's either going to win or it's going to end.
That's truly right. We will not be the same if Donald Trump is president, and we will never be able to put it back together in the same way. We'll survive, of course, maybe, but we will not be the same.
Yeah, not everybody will, but and you know, there's some serious danger out there that there will be people who literally won't survive a Trump presidency, and not because they die of natural causes during it, but because people will very literally be attacked and killed on the street that in ways that wouldn't have happened otherwise. But because there are some people, and to be sure, if we do in fact come out the other end of it, there would be prosecutions of it. They wouldn't ignore it, but it would. There's a lot of violence that is likely to be enabled by what he does and who he is and what he says. People are crazy. He's not the only one. And there's a very weird sector of the country that believes that Donald Trump's, just his ascendancy alone, let alone his election, that would drive them over the edge. They believe that targeted violence against out groups that they hate is something that he's right now winking at and would give the green light to as president. Go kill him. It's all right. Won't prosecute you. That's not what he's saying. You will. You'll get caught. You'll get prosecuted. It's true. But, you're crazy and out of touch, so maybe you don't believe it. There are people who think he's giving them secret signals that he's going to legalize murdering Muslims, murdering Jewish people, murdering gay people, because I hate being PC. He's never said anything of the sort.
The thing about Trump is he's all these things you say, but there's more. He's an idiot
as well. Yes, and so he's not likely to. A smart person who was that cynical would recognize, wow, there's a level at which, if I'm not to blame for it, that there's something I should be doing to prevent this from happening. But he's the kind of guy who would be like, me, I'm blameless. No, to prove it, I'm not going to change anything. And then somebody else will get killed. Yesterday he did a Reddit Ask Me Anything, which, again, but on the surface is a harmless thing to do. Many candidates do it. Everybody tries to do it for online interaction. The parallel I have in my head here is like as ALEC is to model legislation. Model legislation is something everybody knows as a neutral thing at best and a net good. You bring together experts from all over the place, and they from a non-political standpoint put together a model legislation that could be taken up anywhere by anybody. But ALEC, under the guise of calling what it does model legislation, brings together only one side and produces partisan material that they say is model legislation and is,
it's not model like ABA criminal procedure models.
Yes, and they count on the good, the good reputation of real model legislation to get away with the same thing with the Reddit Ask Me Anything. Reddit has a lot of groups in it, a lot of subreddits as they call it, and so doing an Ask Me Anything, well, all the candidates do that. As it turns out, where was it? It was what the alt-right, neo-Nazi white supremacist subreddit, which it refuses, by the way, to call itself a subreddit, but instead calls itself, I can't even remember what else, but they're like, subreddit, no, that's beta, that's cuck. we're not going to sub. We're not sub anything. I don't know whether they call themselves Uber Reddits or not, but they call it something. They really, literally, it's that and they're that stupid, and it's that group. He basically went to all of those guys who have been, tweeting every Jewish person they can find, their names in brackets and pictures of ovens and things, and they call him their Donald Trump. They call him their God Emperor. And everybody's like, in the press, I saw the reaction to it. They're like chuckling, like, over enthusiastic volunteers. No, they're not.
No, they're brown shirts. Those were over enthusiastic volunteers.
Yeah, you can't
too.
do an Ask Me Anything with just any Reddit group. But you guys have been aware of who these people are and what they're doing. You know about the alt-right. You've been reporting on it. Why didn't you see this? Because it didn't say on it Reddit, r/alt-right. That's what it takes to get you to notice that. He went and did that yesterday after, by the way, encouraging the hacking of the former Secretary of State's private emails so that Russia could get their hands on classified information. I don't think that was really brought up quite enough that in the reporting everybody was saying, look, he's encouraging him to hack the DNC more. No, he was asking for Hillary Clinton's emails. He's looking for Russia to hack what he and every other Republican is sure is top secret information that's on her servers. Go find that, Russia. Everybody forgot about that.
Well, you saw the plethora of responses from Republicans. Newt Gingrich came out and said he was joking.
Yes, like Wither on the Vine.
But his spokesman is, what's this guy's name? Jason Miller, had this bizarre tweet series where he tried to explain that, no, but that's not what he said.
Right.
He was joking, but it's not what he said.
He didn't say that. Right. And you were like, I saw it on television.
So how did he tell a joke if he didn't tell the joke?
Right. And 3 times at that.
3 times. And, of course, today, Trump refused to say it was a joke all day yesterday. All day yesterday. He refused to say it was a joke. To the end of the night. They finally convinced him this morning to lie.
We've seen that play
say
before.
He was being sarcastic.
Melania wrote it. All right, Meredith McIver wrote it. It wasn't a joke. It was a joke.
Right. It took 24 hours for them to convince Trump to say it was a joke.
Meanwhile,
which of course means it was not a joke.
Right. And the follow-up to the joke is WikiLeaks releases hacked DNC voicemails last night. Oh, what a joke. Ha. Here's some more of it. Oh, I was just kidding, asking the Russians to do more. Oh, well, they did it. Did they think it was a joke?
Yeah, I mean, the sequencing there is poor. But, everybody listens to those voicemails, says, I don't even know why you release these voicemails.
Yes,
it's stupid.
They don't say anything except, hi, my name is Joe Smith, and I really support Democrats, and where can I give money and volunteer, and here's my number to call me back. So now everybody has Joe's number. So now the alt-right can all call him and say he's a Jew and should die in an oven.
Yep.
That'll be nice.
I mean, I don't know what WikiLeaks is thinking. I saw this as a fundraising ploy at the time. I know they hate Hillary anyway, but I think that's secondary to the idea of making some money from the Bernie busters.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess maybe they thought, because by the way, a couple of things about that. Yes, a lot of the Bernie delegates then spent the day scrawling pro WikiLeaks signs and holding them up at the convention because it exposed. They're happy with WikiLeaks because they exposed the, essentially the scam and the misleading nature of the fundraising scheme that they put together. And I understand that burns them, and they're mad about that. But then you stand there with WikiLeaks signs right as we're finding out. And I know maybe they didn't find this out. Maybe they weren't reading the news. You can actually be pretty disconnected from the news, believe it or not, right in the heart of the Democratic National Convention. It's true. You get distracted by things. So they're holding WikiLeaks signs just as the news breaks. Yesterday, everybody spent all day saying, well, it's worse than Watergate, worse than Watergate. And I agree. I see what they're getting at. After all, there was a break-in at the DNC.
That's what it was. It's a break-in. Right. For better or worse, it's a break-in.
Yeah. And if you didn't quite get the point, now the phones at the Democratic National Committee have been tapped. Does that not ring your Watergate bells? And as a Democrat, you're standing on the floor of the DNC saying, hooray for the Watergate burglars. They did it. I hope they do it again because my candidate didn't get nominated. So, everything.
Listen, I mean, there's no real sense or reason to... look, there wasn't a lot of sense or reason to a lot of the Bernie support. But we can't be objective, and we can't really talk about what's wrong with Bernie's ideas because it's not politics. But in my mind, there's a lot that's wrong with what Bernie wanted to do. I don't agree with Bernie's approach. This isn't me, and it's not a party. If Bernie actually took over the Democratic Party and it became those people, I don't know that I'd be a Democrat. But that's, thank God, not a choice I have to make. And the reason isn't so, and maybe they're saying the same thing to me. He says, well, if people like you represent the Democratic Party, I don't want to be a part of it either. And that's fair too. So that, and there's a candidate for you. If you like that WikiLeaks stuff, Jill Stein is sitting right over there. You should absolutely go support her.
Yeah.
I'm serious. If you think we're that evil, that corrupt, that awful, then you do think we're like Trump. Now, that's insane. But if that's what you think, it's your vote. You get to do what you want. Now, I don't think you're going to have Jill Stein's going to get 1% of the vote, personally. But she's the least of our problems. You know who we need to worry about is Gary Johnson.
You think?
I'm much more worried about Gary Johnson being a place that some Democratic votes might end up at. So in that sense, yes, promote the heck out of Jill Stein. I mean, anytime you see her or talk to her or read her, she's a lot of things that I despise, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I just don't see that as a threat. I mean, anybody that's voting for Jill Stein in this election, I didn't care. It's your vote. You get to do what you want. Go do it. I mean, this whole Nina Turner melodrama. Did you hear about that?
Yes, but I didn't really ever.
Yeah, you don't want to pay attention. You don't care anymore, right?
Yeah.
And it's like,
issue?
She didn't get to do a nominating speech. I'm pretty sure the reason why was Bernie didn't want you to do the nominating speech. I don't think anybody cares enough about Nina Turner to say she's not going to do a 2-minute speech on the nomination. Or maybe she didn't let them vet her speech, which, you have to vet everybody's speech. That's the way it works.
Yeah, and I mean, you might wish it wasn't the way it works, but it's pretty obvious that it is. I mean, the idea that you're going to say, I'm going to come to your television production and, commandeer the mic and wing. I mean, you can write your speech and then deviate from it. If it's a 2-minute speech, it should be pretty easy to do. But, I mean, was it really an issue that, I want to be straightforward about this. I would like you to see what I'm going to put on the teleprompter. It's extraordinarily important that I be able to say it, but not as a surprise. Okay?
Listen, I heard
nice.
Tulsi Gabbard's speech and the other people's speech, but what else? What was she going to say different from them? Why didn't not just hand it in? It's silliness, and it's really look at meism. Look at me, I matter.
In a way, the bulk of yesterday's discussion.
You really don't matter now, and you as an individual notable figure, you're not. That's past. It's over. The days of you going on and being for Bernie's, that part of this election is over. It is.
Yeah. Well, yes.
It is, David. It's over.
That's the point of this convention. That's what we
do.
That
part
of
the election is over.
Had the vote and counted them and everything.
We can talk about all the things you dislike about us, the Democratic Party, but you know what? We'll talk about it after November. The first time she proposes something you don't like, which will probably be day one, get out there, protest, sit-ins, do it all the time. Right now, you're not the story, Nina Turner.
Yeah. And
frankly, you're not the story, Bernie or Busters. You're not. look what
They're
Bernie has
utilizing the
done. Bernie has
platform
said,
of
listen, we did it. We've got energy and momentum, and we're going to carry it forward to the next government, because at the end of the day, this is about what we do is when we're governing, right? It isn't just a reality show where we get to, clap the loudest to see who won the clapping contest. At the end of the day, it's the hard work of laws.
Yes.
It's the hard work of policies. And no one's saying you shouldn't do all the same things you're doing then. Well, I'll disagree with you on those things, and I'll say, well, I don't think you should do them. But, that's the right space for it. The Democratic National Convention, our 4-day infomercial to take our message to the American people, that's not when you get to do these things. It just isn't.
Yeah, and I mean, there's the countervailing argument of, what you're saying is that I need to confine myself to my First Amendment zone and do it when nobody's paying attention and no one will hear the message. And so I can sympathize with that. And
No, I don't. I have to stop you right there. So you're saying that when you do it when it matters, when there's a law that's being proposed, you're saying it doesn't matter then?
No, it does matter.
It only matters now?
No, there's plenty of times that if it matters at all, it matters always. So, you do it at any time. Yes, that's true. What I'm saying is I'm sympathetic with the feeling that they've got. I don't know whether I'm sympathetic with the execution,
what is the goal of the
but
protest?
The feeling of the who knows? The goal of any protest, if you're protesting, most people say the protest is I really actually would like a policy result. And then they say, well, we don't have the votes. And then you say, well, then I'm raising awareness. That's your fallback position.
All right, you're raising awareness to what end?
Right, I don't know.
To persuade.
Yes.
To persuade people to see it your way.
Yes. And
who is persuaded by these things that they've been doing?
Well, themselves and others like them.
They were universally panned yesterday by everybody. Nobody had any sympathy for it. You convinced nobody.
Yeah,
in fact, what you did was convince people to hate
you. No doubt about it. I'm just saying, when you come to hopefully, all right, how can we say this? I guess in the hypothetical in which what you've got here and what you're protesting in favor of has got wider support and is a more morally defensible position or whatever it is, then I understand when you say things like, the whole world is watching and here's our opportunity to be heard and we have so little leverage in the media as it is, and here it is, all the major networks, the world itself has their eyes on it, the microphones are on, the cameras are on, we can be seen and heard. I get that.
Well,
but
you
also
Trump
do
is
need
seen
to
and heard
think
every
about,
day.
you need to be heard, you need to understand, what is going to be heard? Because what's going to be heard isn't, the international trade regulation and the platforms on which we liberalize our tariff schedules really should be re-examined. What happens is people perceive in the middle of an important line of the speech. Well, it's not my fault that the acoustics of the hall are bad. It's not your fault that the acoustics of the hall are bad, but it is your fault for not recognizing what every protester since these conventions have become televised has known. You're not going to be heard. You're going to sound muffled and get thrown out, and everybody's going to boo you because they don't know what the hell you're doing. But whatever, some other dudes did it once. I read in a book where farting is a good idea. Let's try that.
Yeah, I don't even understand.
But I understand. I mean, okay, if you've got whatever the hell it is that you're working on that you believe needs the most exposure and awareness possible, it's going to be natural. I understand. That
Has anyone really figured out if that's for real? Cameras. If that's just like a prank?
The fart thing.
Somebody's pretending, the fart in thing.
No, nobody really has, and I'm reminded from time to time by people from all sides on this that nobody really knows whether this is really going to happen. And P.S., the one that they're basing it on, the whole Saul Alinsky thing, even that one didn't happen. It's just a story about, wouldn't it be funny if we frightened the crap out of people by saying we were going to have a fart in, and then we didn't do it, and then 40 years later, let's all fart.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's...
You want to know something? I mean, you can't hear when somebody yells, "No TPP," blah, blah, blah. You can't quite make out what they're saying. They're not going to hear your farts. It's not going to work. It's not happening. Well, it'll smell bad. It smells bad on the floor now. I promise.
Yeah, I'm still not even sure. I mean, the logistics of that. If they're all going to be together, the only people that are going to fart on is themselves.
There's no sense, really. As I'm hearing us do it, there's really no sense in it.
Or are they going to spread out strategically
I
throughout
don't know.
and
Nobody's
fart
going to do
in people's
anything.
general direction? I mean,
I
it's...
got no idea. Right. And like I said yesterday, fart in, by the way, incrementalism. Boo!
Exactly.
You either
Shit
shart
on.
in
Oops.
or do
Sorry.
nothing. Crap your pants. Commit yourself to it. God damn it. Yeah, so I don't know. That may very well just be a joke.
Yeah, who knows? But the thing is,
Can't
it's not
really pin
completely
that on.
unbelievable that somebody in that group would have come up with that idea. That's why,
If you have people angry, then I assume that that's worked. I have to guess that that's aimed at making people say, "God damn these idiots," and if so, then okay, God damn these idiots.
yeah,
They win.
yeah, absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I don't know.
I mean, and back to the more mundane things of politics. I mean, I thought last night the Bloomberg speech was pretty important.
Yes.
Politically. First of all, it was a searing indictment of Trump on every level, on the business level.
Well, I wish I
Yeah.
had seen that part of it. I chose to skip that to take care of business at home
Yeah,
because
sure.
I thought, I don't really want to listen to Michael Bloomberg about anything. But
Well,
then I realized afterwards
he was excellent.
that's what he would be doing.
He hit all the things that would frighten a non-democratic voter about Trump.
Okay.
His insanity, the fact that he's a fraud as a businessman was important. And it's important because, Michael Bloomberg actually is a multi-billionaire. I mean,
He is that.
for reals.
I assume. I mean, I know. I never see anybody's stacks of cash. But okay.
Well,
Nobody has yet said he's not.
Listen, I am.
Somebody has this money.
I'm a non-fan of Lawrence O'Donnell, but he captures the way he does know one thing. He knows rich people because he hobnobs with them all the time.
All right.
And in New York, the actual rich people just don't act like Trump. They don't brag about how rich they are. They buy their thing. They brag in their own way. They have their Hampton estate and all these other things. But, they don't talk that way. They don't brag about where they went to school. They just assume they went to the best schools. Like Bloomberg went to Harvard Business School.
Mm-hmm.
You don't hear. Have you ever heard him say he went to Harvard Business School?
No, I guess not.
Because you
Money
don't
speaks.
when you're a real billionaire. You don't have to brag about those things.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
And he went through the litany of how Trump isn't a really successful businessman. Then he talked about the fact that, frankly, Trump isn't of his right mind. He said he's not sane. He used the word sane. We need a sane president, i.e., Trump isn't. We need somebody who's competent. You'd have to get the whole feel of it because if you've seen Bloomberg, he's pretty wooden, generally speaking. But this speech was very effective, I thought, on all those things. And in a way that what I said was, at the time was, this is a very effective speech for reaching independence, which is maybe 5 to 7% true independence of the population, maybe 5-7%. That's the real swing. The rest of it is just turnout issues. And also people who, frankly, are never going to like Hillary Clinton, are going to dislike her for any number of reasons, fair or unfair, and say, you know what, you may not like her, but this other guy is crazy. Now, look, we're going to need those votes of people who don't like Hillary, but just cannot stomach the idea of Trump as president. And that argument has not been as effectively put as it was by the quintessential media independent, the one they love, the one they wanted to run for president. I'm looking at people like Fournier and Dowd and those guys and say, listen, you can play that both sides game after the election. Right now, we're facing an existential threat. So this isn't the time for that nonsense. And Bloomberg sent that this isn't the time for that nonsense message to them and to voters of that ilk, which, as I said, are maybe 5-6% of the population or the voting groups. And he sent that message pretty effectively, I thought.
Well, I hope so. I certainly saw a lot of discussion about it and saying that that he attacked Trump's business record in a way that others couldn't do, or perhaps with a credibility that others couldn't do because he's not a Democrat and is a billionaire.
Yeah, a lot of people are upset he didn't talk about the gun issue, which he is a champion of. I mean, he has spent
low profile on that.
$1 billion of his dollars on the gun issue. But I think he made the right choice. You saw that whole section on guns, or did you skip that too?
I had to skip that too, but
well, when you do get a chance to see the speech by the mother of a victim of Pulse, it was heartbreaking, moving. It was something else. But the whole section was very good. Really humanized the tragedy of guns and of gun violence and our crazy gun policies.
I know something about that. Sure.
It was very strong. The feeling was, well, easy applause line. He could talk about his gun work.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't do it, Bloomberg, because, and I think why, and I think he made the right choice.
Yeah, I think so.
You're not trying to reach those people with Bloomberg's speech. The reality is people who care about that the most are already on our side probably, or if they weren't, they might have watched the previous segment, and that is going to get them as much as anything. We're trying to reach other people.
True.
The other people that don't necessarily agree with us on things, to see Trump is just not an acceptable choice under any circumstances. And that was his purpose, and in my view, it worked. Of course, I'm already there, so it's easy for me to say it worked, but I think it did.
Well, I can see why he would stay off of the gun issue for a couple of reasons, and all related to that. That's not who he was there to address. He's not a Democrat. The idea of leave the articulation of Democratic policy on guns, which is not entirely clear as it is. But leave that to the Democrats. That's fine. You certainly don't want any thunder stolen if there's any to be had. And also he wants to keep as reasonably close to a low profile on it as he can. Everybody knows, particularly gun enthusiasts, know very well that he's spending his personal fortune on that, and he doesn't really need to draw any more attention to it. And, it's hard to be disappointed in him for not hitting it when it's like, well, I left the stage for you to hit it all you want, and I'm paying for it. I'm funding all of this gun sense work and left the stage to you to grab all the credit for it. I don't know how much better I could have done it for you. I'm content to go home and let you have the credit and me have the other billions that I'm not spending on this program for you. So really to get upset about that would be, out of place at best. So, okay. I'm satisfied that he did his work.
Right. No, he did. It was look, Chuck Todd, your old boss.
No, intern.
Your old intern. You were his boss.
He wasn't my intern. He was an intern at the hotline when I was a staff writer there. So.
Right. Anyway, he said something that I thought was right. Naratandon got a little upset at his phrasing, but I think she misunderstood him. It was, listen, if the Democrats don't get a bump out of last night, then I don't know what's going to get them a bump. But I think that's right. But he called it says, after having character witnesses like that. And he didn't mean it in the sense that she took it, which was, she's a criminal and needed character witnesses. It was more the political character witness, which is a phrase we used to use about, he's a character witness. And he just didn't mean it negatively. But the reality is, how that night was as good as it could be politically, in my view. I mean, that's the everything ran just the way they wanted. And indeed, I think we cheated and got an extra 35 minutes, 40 minutes of network time by putting Obama last. They might have cut away from someone like even Kane. You never know; these guys are crazy at the networks. The local news hour is sacrosanct for the affiliates, as you know. That's where they make most of their money. I think my recollection.
Well, I know that they I don't know about whether they make most of their money. That stands to reason. But yeah, that's the one thing they hate to preempt, even though they'll do it for baseball games all the time. But I assume that's because they're making money there too.
With the network on the baseball games, because the networks need that commitment when they buy when they bid for the rights of sports events. But so that's true. Great night. Now, I've decided to go back to Philly today to watch Hillary's speech. And it's not because I expect Hillary's speech to be the best of all time or anything like that. I decided for two reasons. And again, Obama convinced me in some ways. First, I was struck. And again, I said this to you the other day about Michelle Obama's speech, how effusive in its praise it was for Hillary. Obama really, a president doesn't always give that speech. Michael Beschloss said that today. That was the most effusive endorsement speech for a successor that a sitting president has ever given. Ronald Reagan didn't do that for George H.W. Bush in '88. I don't know what that would be the parallel that was most striking. Of course, Al Gore decided he didn't want Bill Clinton to do that in 2000, for better or worse. I think for worse, frankly, but leave that as it be. The fact is that how it happened, but in the last 8 years, the Obamas and Hillary Clinton, and I would assume Bill on some level, but certainly Hillary, have become incredibly close, I think, on a personal level. And it's striking to me. It's a development I had no idea about. I don't know if everybody else knew this was happening and it was fine. There was no acting there. Yeah. That hug at the end, and there's a picture that's been going around of it. It just speaks volumes.
Somebody put it cleverly next to the air kiss between Trump and Pence. Right. It reminds you of that Jerry Maguire scene. Why don't we have that kind of relationship?
Why don't we have that kind of relationship? Exactly. That's what I thought. And then I thought to myself, there's this. Look at how Obama feels about Hillary. There's got to be something about her that is extraordinary. And of course, it'll be the nomination by a woman for the first time by a major party. It's history, so I've decided to go be a witness to history. I won't be spraying my mouth like if you ever saw you probably don't because you have little kids. Mad Max Fury Road. You have to go see Dory and things like that, right?
Yeah, basically.
You don't get to see Mad Max Fury Road.
No.
On anyway, so I won't even try the reference for you.
All right.
But anyway, I'm going to go witness history. I think so.
Sure.
Obama again, very persuasive.
Very good. Good job there, Barack.
Yes,
if you're listening.
Persuaded me to make the drive down again.
Yeah.
Now, of course, I'm such a big shot. I know I'm going to be able to get in because I've got friends who will give me a ticket. I'm one of the 1%ers who can just make that decision on the spur of a moment.
Right, and they'll let you in because the people giving you tickets aren't spending the day booing. We discussed that at length yesterday. I don't know if everybody fell asleep yesterday, but I felt like that was somehow very important to discuss the political dynamics of what was going on and how the fallout distributes itself, and that it is in the end. I understand the impulse to do it, but extraordinarily self-indulgent. And I know at the time you feel like, well, I have to do this because reasons. But in the end, lots of enthusiastic super volunteers who, put themselves out there to do all the things that President Obama exhorted them to do last night, got screwed in the end because it was important that you yell TPP the 95th time, and now they go home without having experienced the excitement that you, the elite, got to experience by being elected a delegate. I know you don't feel very elite, but compared to the people who didn't get on, you are.
Yes.
But it's
they're absolutely elite. Their seats were much better than mine. I'll put it to you that way.
All right. Well, they earned them. They just
that also reminds the whole. By the way, just on that one point, and some people had a walkout. I forget if it was when that was.
At the end of the roll call, I think.
Or is that what it was?
Day 2, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, okay, you walked out. A walkout only works if you don't walk back in.
That's true too.
I mean, do they not understand that a walkout means you're left? You're not coming back. You don't get to just walk out. If you're coming back, then it doesn't mean anything.
Once you've cast your vote in the roll call, you can
walk. I just don't understand it. I mean, I'm so offended I'm walking out. Boom, boom. But I'm not so offended that I won't walk back in.
I got to go back and say,
I guess you really weren't that offended, were you?
Well, they got a job to do, to go yell about their issue, which it is. Kind of.
Okay, that's fine, but the walkout didn't make sense.
No, but I read somewhere that walking out was a thing, so we're going to, just like I read somewhere that a fart in is a thing. We're going to have one of those. I'm going to walk out. I'm going to walk out, fart in.
But a walkout means you walked out.
Yeah.
You don't walk back in.
Right.
30 minutes later.
You put tape over your mouth because you've been silenced by the DNC. You don't take the tape off
I joined
later
the
to go to the
walkout
chocolate
I went to
fountain.
the concession stand, or I joined the walkout to the bathroom. I mean, how do I know that's different? I mean,
I don't know.
No, well, they walked to the media tent and said, "I walked out."
Right, and the media was inside saying, "What?
Bye.
Can't hear you." And then it turned out it was a silent protest.
Well, fascinatingly, I did think the media just got bored with it.
Well,
I mean, they were that was all they wanted to talk about for a day or two.
They weren't sure what it was exactly, and 10 different people told them 10 different things. And then when the first person told them, well, the reason we're protesting is we feel like we haven't gotten enough coverage from the media, so the media said, I'll take your picture and write that down and put it in the newspaper. Now are you done? Are you walking back in now, or are you going to stay here? Well, I don't know. Maybe we'll stay because why?
Because we want to do another walk.
Wrote your story, took your picture. Now what?
Well, now I don't know. Another walk.
Not only
tomorrow.
do I not know, but I can't say because there's tape on my face. So I don't know. I don't love that stuff. That's true.
I'm not a protest guy, never been, but that doesn't mean I don't appreciate it. I just still like to see logic.
Parlio says walkouts highlight all the things he didn't walk out over previously.
You're right. I mean,
I get it.
I heard there was something about a chant about drones that tried to start during Obama's speech, and I said, you people cannot be chanting about drones. When Bernie Sanders supports the drone policy, don't tell me it's a huge issue for you.
But he's not our king. So he's wrong on that. And again, it's true. And again, it's a point. And again, you have the point. Okay, but that point could be made better elsewhere. All of which is true, and they're competing values there, and you got to sort it out. And if you choose to have that protest there and then have people roll their eyes not only at that because they think it's an inappropriate time, but even when it's done later at an appropriate time, the same people will roll their eyes and say those are the guys who were such jerks before. That's a calculated risk. You took it. That's fine. People will roll their eyes. You'll say that's hippie punching, and they'll say that's interpersonal politics. I didn't like the way you did it last time, and now I'm like, ugh, these guys.
Yeah, well, I would say, look, if you're the hippie, yeah, I'm punching you. I didn't like what you did. You didn't persuade me, and let's face it, if you can't persuade us, you're certainly not going to persuade them. Yeah. So how's that work exactly? Anyway, I'm done critiquing those guys. They have their thing.
They understand your anger.
I respect their energy and their commitment.
Look, you've had your protest, Armando. Enough.
Huh? What?
You've had your protest, Armando. You've protested them.
That's true. Enough of me protesting the protesters.
Right, exactly.
Absolutely. I'm done with that.
One.
Though I am a little fearful that they'll try to pull some nonsense off tonight.
Sure. They have a last shot at TV cameras, and they'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what happens now. I tell you, if they know who the biggest instigators are, I think credential revoking, like at 9:30, escorting them out might be in order. Kind of fascistic of me, I know, but we need a good show tonight. I mean, this is a big speech. It matters a lot. I hope they respect that, but a little part of me fears that they won't, and we'll have to do a lot of mindless USA chants to drown them out. Which I hate. I hate USA chants. I know that's sort of contradictory to what I was saying before. I just hate them because they're mindless. But it's the easy one to organize as a counter chant. So as I told to Jameson Foser last night on Twitter, I said, I don't like the USA chant either, but everyone knows it and they pick it up, and it's a quick drowner outer of whatever these people are going to chant tonight, or hopefully they won't chant, but I suspect they will.
Yeah. Well, probably some. We'll see how it goes tonight. It should be pretty exciting, and I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how the punditry handles it. By the way, among the worst handled things ever that I've seen from the punditry and reporters, I guess last night's or yesterday's highlight of poor reporting, which we have to credit Media Matters doing their job properly, were the ones who picked this one up. Did I not put this one aside? Did you catch the interview, the ABC reporter interviewing Elizabeth Warren?
Yeah, but the racist thing.
That's the worst thing ever.
I think you got to understand something.
Yeah.
These blow-dry talking heads are just not smart people.
Yeah, I guess not. I mean, and he's a known reporter. He's a national.
And he went to Afghanistan and all that. David, he's not a bright guy.
This was very poor example of anything. I really have been surprised.
I totally agree with you. Listen, it was offensive, but in a sense, it's not. It's part of the mindset problem of both sidism and nonsense.
Yeah, that was really.
But it's also the guy's just not very smart.
I guess not.
In its context, it didn't even work. I mean, what are you talking about? Is it racist? Yes. But isn't it racist to say it's racist? What?
Yeah, I am surprised that she was able to contain herself. Maybe she wasn't able to contain herself. You're stunned that is put to you. And really, I mean, the correct answer is, are you saying the use of any noun is racist, essentially? Or this wasn't even really actually used as a noun.
The real racist.
But this would be more like, adjective? I guess in this sense.
I know.
But just unbelievable. All right, Trump calls you Pocahontas. Is that racist? Yes, he's a racist. Isn't that calling him a name too?
Yes.
It's labeling him a thing that
you asked me the question. A yes or no question. What am I going to say? No, it's not racist. Of course, it's racist.
Yeah, that was rather.
I mean, again, this is in George Costanza world where you get to think about your comeback. For 24 hours.
So, right.
But I would have just said, you're not very bright, are you?
Yeah, I guess at some point, she was a little stunned, and she tried to, explain the situation where it really just deserved a wow, you just asked that. Holy mackerel. Did you just, aren't you the real racist, me? Unbelievable. This is going to be on television, right? You know you work on TV. This is going on here. You're not going to cut this now, are you?
Yeah. It was something.
Yeah.
And,
Just a brief
I assume, I don't even know. Would he know enough to be embarrassed about it today? David Weiner? He knows everyone's making fun of him and ridiculing him, and he doesn't like that, but does he understand why?
Yeah, I don't know. Well,
I don't know either. See, that's the sad
There's
thing.
There's a chance.
I would not at all be sure that he would know.
Maybe somebody talked to him in the over lunch. All right. Well, I don't know. I just thought you would.
Yeah, I mean, it was amazing.
That
it was amazing.
And the mistakes yesterday. So there was that one. I loved I mentioned earlier. Just if you wanted to just think about that and laugh, the Trump mistaking Tim Kaine for Tom Kaine.
Wow, that was great.
and
he's ruined New Jersey. That Tim Kaine, he was terrible for New Jersey. He didn't know the guy was from Virginia. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, he thought he was Tom Kaine.
It's one thing to get the name wrong, but to get the state wrong?
Yeah, well, I assume he really thought he was speaking of Thomas Kaine, who was governor of New Jersey in the 80s.
Right.
And
right. Yeah, man, perfect together. Yeah, we know
right.
Tom Kaine.
Yeah. Man, the old style Republican. Holy cow. That and then.
By the way, where did he get that accent from again? I forget that story.
I don't know.
That's certainly not Jersey.
I think they are New Jersey people through and through.
Maybe
but
it's
I
Horsey,
assume
New
it comes
Jersey?
from
maybe out there in Morristown or something.
No, he was actually living in the right on the border of West Orange and Livingston. He's from
that's not West Orange, Livingston. Come on.
Well, I know where his house is.
I know, but that
treated it as his house.
Come from
the
West
spooky
Orange.
ass mansion that they lived in. That's where they lived. But I mean, that's maybe an Andover accent. That's boarding school situation.
That makes more sense.
And drinky. They lived there. That's true. That's where their land was. But they lived in. I guess,
what's the fancy prep school in Jersey? Lawrenceville?
Prep school.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
I don't
that.
know what his
maybe
background is. I should look it up.
Thing.
But, that's upper crust, whatever. I mean, old movie New York people had weird accents. They don't have today's New York accents. They have, vaguely English Victorian accents.
True.
It's weird. I love that, seeing that in the old movies.
Yeah, it is.
Wow,
did
New
York
speak
socialites
like that?
did have that. At least
strange.
as the movies portrayed them. I didn't,
right.
Never had to.
I never had the experience with those guys. I don't know anybody.
West
like
Orange, yeah. Tom Kaine and his West Orange accent.
Right.
Yeah.
So I don't know where that, but that was pretty amazing. Speaking of here's another amazing mistake. I'll let you. I know you probably have to get some work.
No, I'm fine.
The Hill reporting that I guess not Tom Kaine but Tim Kaine was, as you know, on the stage yesterday, speaking at the Democratic National Convention and reminding everybody that his son is deployed with the Marines, deployed for at a NATO post, doing the work that Donald Trump says is he's not going to do unless somebody pays him, and wearing on his lapel the service flag that if you've got somebody, particularly usually a child, deployed in the military, you wear those pin with the star, the blue star. And if you've got two kids in the military, you get one with two stars on it. It's like the Boy Scouts. You get a little thing, right? And you can hang it in the window. You wear it on. So he's wearing this thing, the single star pin, and the North Carolina Republican Party, apparently. I don't know why North Carolina. He's from Virginia. But North Carolina, which reminds everybody in the roll call, both in the Democratic and Republican conventions, that it's the home of the largest military base in the world, and where like 10% of the population, both in Virginia and North Carolina, military, as a result of having both the largest naval bases and army bases, and marine bases in that area. But they pride themselves on their military heritage in North Carolina as well. So apparently they mistook his pin. They said it was disgraceful, shameful for wearing this pin on a national. Can you believe this Tim Kaine character wearing this shameful pin? They thought it was the flag of Honduras. And did he do his missionary work in? I think it was elsewhere. I don't know how they mistook it because they don't look alike. There's many more stars on the Honduran flag. There's 5, I think, on the Honduran flag. But apparently they thought it was the flag of Honduras and said, it tweeted out, he wears a Honduras flag pin on his jacket, but no American flag. Shameful, from the state party. And then somebody said, hey, that's a Blue Star service pin for his son who's a deployed Marine. And delete the tweet. Goodbye. Just, by the way, as mistakes go. Gulp. That's amazing. So
that is funny.
Just add that.
I did not know that.
That who knew that they would make that mistake in North Carolina? That's pretty shameful. But they did it. So I thought you might enjoy that one.
I did. The Honduras flag, huh? So they thought they recognized the Honduras flag?
I guess they thought that.
If you put the Honduras flag in front of me, I would not recognize.
I like flags. I know them pretty well. Yeah,
but
they don't
flags.
They don't look alike. And if you look it up,
Big Bang Theory show.
Yeah, that's true. It's a little bit like that. It was a thing for me. I guess I'm that kind of weirdo nerd.
No, that's cool. But I mean, I personally would not recognize.
Doesn't look
the
anything
Honduran
like
flag.
it. The service pin has a red border, white field, blue star right in the middle. Honduran flag is blue horizontal stripe, white horizontal stripe, blue horizontal, and then there's 5 stars, pretty much arrayed like the 5 on a side of a die in the middle, as I recall. It doesn't look anything like it.
Oh, okay, so you who know flags don't understand how they possibly thought it was a Honduran flag.
It
so
doesn't look anything
that
like
part of it was crazy.
There's plenty of flags with 1 star in the middle.
But the embarrassing part is
that's not the embarrassing
military heavy, and they did not recognize it as the what type of star was it?
As a blue service star.
Blue service star.
It's a thing that, I mean, it's what military families use to indicate to one another and the rest of the world that they have a family member in active service deployed.
It's like the yellow ribbon pin.
Yeah, or like the blue stripe pin that people, or sticker that they put on their cars if there's a cop in the family. Huh. You know, and to go out there and say some kind of crazy communist symbol, and you know, like, what? Are you out of your mind? I don't know. So, pretty serious error, and I don't know. I guess they're all dilettantes running the Republican Party in North Carolina, though they're always, for political reasons, effusive in their praise for the military. They literally don't recognize. It would be like, I don't know what, looking at a guy in Marine dress and saying he's dressed up like some kind of crazy, commie at the Kremlin. That's a dress Marine uniform. Are you kidding? Yeah. But look at that crazy hat. I know they're weird hats, but I mean, that's military. That's what they wear. Yeah. I don't know. I didn't know. I didn't recognize it. Blue. I thought our army was green. Well, this is the Marines, and no, they wear blue.
Yeah, I see that. That's
It'd be like looking at an admiral in dress uniform. Where's the red and blue? If you're so patriotic, you're wearing all white. What is that? A surrender flag you're dressed as? Oh my God!
I don't know.
You're crazy.
I thought someone was trying to be clever, but you know what? When you're trying to be clever, you actually have to be clever.
I mean, just zoom in on the pin. What is that? And then you could say, oh, it's the flag of Honduras. Then Google it. No, it isn't. Look at that. That's not. I don't know what it is, but it's definitely not that. Let's tweet it anyway.
Yeah.
Did he do service in Honduras? Is that why they thought it was Honduran?
He did missionary work in Honduras with the Jesuits.
I didn't know where he thought, and I'll bet there's a South American flag that probably looks closer.
Yeah, I mean, again, did they think? Here is Kane. I'm looking at the pin now. I hadn't noticed it last night, to be honest with you, but it's very clearly has a blue star in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. On a white field with red, or it looks like.
It's Blue Star Airlines. It's a reference to Wall Street. He thinks greed is good. How dare he?
I mean,
Of all
did the
things it
Honduran
could be.
flag have like a blue star in the middle? Let me look up the
One.
Honduran flag.
Well,
now,
5.
To see how
Yeah, go look.
acceptable this mistake is.
Why not?
I mean, now you've piqued my interest. I'm always interested in stupidity, so
Sure. There's plenty to go around where.
his work never ends.
Yeah.
It looks nothing like it. There's 5 stars in the Honduran flag
Yes.
with 2 blue stripes.
And no red.
5 star. What are they talking about?
La la la. We're stupid.
No,
Yeah.
that's incredibly stupid.
They just
Wow.
thought they had. They did. It wasn't.
It's a nice
an
flag.
American
I
flag.
like it. Nice and simple.
Sure, it's very understated. It's nice. But let's see if Donald Trump wants to punch it up a little bit. Maybe we could make the stars
Put a
gold.
little gold leaf on it.
Right. Maybe the whole thing could be gold. Maybe it's just a gold bar that says Trump.
Maybe a picture of one of the
Honduras on
thrones he sits on.
it. Yeah. Well,
What would a Trump country flag look like? What would it have?
gold and gold on it, and then
Did it
Trump.
have a silhouette of Trump Tower?
It would say Trump America, probably.
Trump America.
Opening soon.
America's Trump.
So, well, okay. So that was pretty amazing too. Let's see. Before we, I guess, sign off for the day, I thought, let's see. We'll here's something. 2 things. One, Harry Reid, I guess, speaking yesterday also, and he I don't know where he said this, whether it was probably not in his speech, but rather in an interview. He had a good idea. This occurred to me, and so I agree with him. He was speaking to Ryan Grimm and Sam Stein there at the convention. He, in thinking about the fact that the CIA would soon be giving the misprision of espionage guy classified briefings, Trump, they said, he said, here's an idea. You have to give him a briefing, right? So just give him a fake briefing. Just fake it. You give him some stuff either that's well known, or I would say plant false intelligence on him. And if the Russians start yammering about it, you say, boom, you're nailed. We gave you a false piece of intel and to see if you would leak it, and you did. I'm amazed, but he just says you go and you give a briefing. If you're forced to brief this guy, he says, don't tell him anything. Just fake it, because this man is dangerous. Fake it. Pretend you're doing a briefing, but you can't give the guy any information. This guy, Reid continues, he's part of a foreign power. We knew he liked Putin before this, but this is quite ridiculous. So Harry Reid, and now out of F's to give on his way out the door, just says, all right, well, I'll do some classic Reid stuff on the way out. We'll call it like it is.
Yes, he will.
Operative of a foreign power.
He really was a good Senate leader. No question about that. I mean, we like the other stuff he does.
Yeah.
But the reality is that in the procedural and the holding his caucus together, he was pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Now, I've got one for you that I just saw. You must have seen this. Here's a tweet. Apparently on CNN just now, on Hillary's speech tonight, and they use quotes here. To use a soccer analogy, if you don't knock it out of the park, you're in trouble.
That's what?
What?
You can't. I mean, I've never seen anybody knock it out.
Maybe
of
the
park.
North Carolina GOP is running CNN now.
Yeah. All right. Well, Americans don't understand soccer. Why did you say use a soccer analogy? What kind of American would even say to use a soccer analogy? And if you're going to use a soccer analogy, I guess it would say, I don't know what. What is there a good soccer analogy for anything ever? If you don't hit it with your head.
The reality is, there's no analogy that actually works. If you want to say that she's really, by the way, I disagree with the underlying point as well.
All right.
She doesn't need to knock it out. First of all, it's a baseball analogy. If she doesn't knock it out of the park, you're gonna lose. Though that's not even a baseball analogy. That's silliness. But that's also not true either. I think she has very low expectations coming in. She's notedly not a set piece orator. I think the arena will be with her no matter what, and it'll be fine. I mean, it's this tonight doesn't want to see the election. The reality is, it's Chuck Todd, your former intern said, not your intern, I know.
Right.
Said last night was more important on the speechifying. Tonight is soaking it up. She'll say all the right things, I'm sure. Listen, if she does knock it out of the park, that'll be huge. But if she doesn't, it's just not that big a deal. We don't expect her to. If she can hit a single, we'll be happy.
Okay. It'll be our job to be happy. That's true.
Well,
I
mean,
think she'll
listen,
be fine.
Yeah, a single.
She's working
Tim
hard
Kaine
on this.
didn't knock it out. Tim Kaine wasn't as good as he was on Saturday.
Yeah, no, that was unfortunate. But okay, I mean.
But he was fine.
There's a
if
lot of
Hillary
support.
says fine as Kaine was, we'll be fine.
Yeah, there's a lot of support and production support that will go into making this a show, and it'll be fine. You don't even really have to worry about hitting a single. Don't hit yourself in the head. With
exactly.
The bat, and we'll be okay.
All right, don't strain yourself with a big swing and pull a hamstring.
Yes. So stretch out, I guess. All right. Well, thanks for coming by.
Yeah, let me let you off.
And
it's
I will.
10:52. You need to do your final things. Yeah. I am going to see history, and if you want, I'll call in to report on history.
Yes. Send me a souvenir. Get me a thing. I don't know. I will have a drink in my...
have two big Michelle things from the other night.
Oh,
so if you want one of those, it's got your name on it.
Well, no, it doesn't.
No, it's got Michelle's name on it.
But thank you.
But I could write your name on it if you want.
Michelle, I found out, is Melania Trump's Secret Service code name.
Yes, that would be funny.
So,
that should be. That's a good joke. Someone should say that.
I did it.
That's right.
That's why all my
but it's not said till you put it on Twitter.
All right. Well, thanks.
All right. Have a good one.
Thank you. You do the same. Enjoy it tonight. I will have a drink in my New York 1992 Democratic National Convention highball glasses. Not highball glasses, but sorry. What's the other ones? I don't know what the hell they call those things. It doesn't matter. I'm not that fancy. Anyway, I do have them, and it'll be a nice tribute to the whole Clinton situation, which began in 1992 for most of us. What can I wrap up with today? There's a couple of other short bits. One, I don't think I actually mentioned this on the air, or perhaps I did accidentally. Didn't read you the piece, but Eclectablog is the source on this one. No one else seems to have noticed this, but I thought you would think this was a fun Donald Trump tidbit. Trump has been calling himself President of the United States of America, actually, for a year now on election filings. This, doesn't mean anything in particular, but just think about that for a second. A new piece out in Vanity Fair contains a buried lead that could easily have been the headline. In filings over the past year with the Federal Elections Commission, Donald Trump refers to himself as, quote, President of the United States of America. The first of the filings was in July of last year in his 92-page financial disclosure with the FEC, and in a second, in last May, in both of which he calls himself President of the United States of America. Hillary does it properly and says she's a candidate for president. You have to say, what is your occupation? And he just puts President of the United States of America. Just that's Trump for you. As they say in Eclectablog, it's a level of chutzpah that's unprecedented. Keep in mind that in July of last year, there were still 16 people running for the Republican nomination and 3 running for the Democratic nomination. But narcissist in chief that he is, he begins calling himself President of the United States of America in official filings. Well, it's a little presumptive, but it does tell you a little bit about, where his head is. What else can we do? Tomorrow, perhaps, we'll have to save this one for tomorrow, but an interesting piece also in the Huffington Post about, just to make there's a lot of garbage, of course, that goes on around this happy party that we're having, the Democratic National Convention, and a lot of it has to do with extraordinarily rich people who think they're entitled to everything because they gave a lot of money either to the DNC, in which case they are entitled to most everything at the DNC. That stands to reason. But more to the point, given that we didn't get around to reading, and I'll have to read it tomorrow, what did come out from WikiLeaks and what is rather damaging about the way the DNC operates when it comes to money. We might as well follow that up with a very interesting piece, like I said, about Democratic donors to the Clinton Foundation. And it is an interesting story because they show up at the Democratic National Convention thinking, I've been giving to the Clintons for years. How can you not let me into this thing, which is for people who donated money to the Democratic National Committee or to Hillary herself or some political operation. I gave so much money to the Clinton Foundation. Why won't you let me in? And to the credit of the person who's in charge of this stuff, somebody's being a hard ass, and I like it. And they're like, yeah, that's A, not the way it works, and B, should not be the way it works. We don't allow the whole point, the thing people have been attacking her about for years, that she was going to trade political favors for donations to the Clinton Charitable Foundation. There's plenty of attacks still out there. There's plenty of instances in which people think they have her dead to rights and proving it. But it ain't going to happen here. I'm glad you supported their charitable foundation. They're glad you supported their charitable foundation. The cocktails you're looking for are at that the charitable foundation's reception that they have elsewhere in New York at other times. That's not what this is. We don't commingle this stuff the way the Trumps do. That's wrong. Good for you. I mean, I probably pissed some people off, but it seems like, as we'll read the story tomorrow, they came to understand and come to the conclusion that this was in fact the right thing to do. But interesting, nonetheless. I thought I'd share that one with you. I'll send you the link. I'll send Scott the link, and he'll link it to you, and you'll read it, and then tomorrow we'll all be discussing it. We'll be on the same page. Thanks to everybody who made comments today. I meant to make mention while Armando was on, Rebecca Romans making mention of the fact that she loved that "Don't Boo, Vote" line. I like that too. I think that was a callback too, right? Wasn't that something that he has said in speeches before, and it was perfectly suited to last night's address as well. So thanks for sharing that comment with us. Do share your comments with us out there in the audience. Love to hear from you. Didn't want to neglect to mention that one. What's coming up next? It's Thursday. That means we get to do a little Italian. Thank God it's Giovedì on the after show with Wink and Justice. Coming up next, what are they talking about? The NFL's claim that the Heads Up youth football program reduces concussions. Well, science is still out on that one. It's not backed by research, I can tell you that. The workers who feed members of Congress will share a $1 million back pay payday after years of abusive wage theft. And popular Texas convenience store chain is now suing a former employee for $67,000 because she found a new job. Oh no, you can't have that happening. I'll tell you what's coming up next on the last half of their show after this.
From Daily Kos Radio on networksradio.com. You have been listening to the Kagro in the Morning Show
with David Waldman.
All right, are you ready for this one? On the last half, they'll report on the confusion reigning over whether Scientology boss David Miscavige is furious over reports of his Tom Cruise bromance, or reports of the secret video recordings of his Tom Cruise bromance. And the Delphic Oracle of ancient Greece has secrets which speak to us today. Go ahead and ask. Coming up next.